In a similar manner to the last exercise, we will hijack the execution flow of this file at its first instructions. Once again, we will copy these instructions for future reference. As we did before, we would like to change the entry point to take us to our code cave. So I will change these instructions to jump to our code cave address. Now take a look at that. Several instructions have been overwritten here, namely all of these. We will need to remember to restore these instructions at the end. So let's save these changes to a file and reopen this file in Ollie once again. Wonderful. So our first instruction was replaced, and pressing F8 will lead us to our code cave. So everything is working as expected so far. Our next challenge is to understand what parts of the file we want to encode. We can't simply encode the whole file from beginning to end, as we might be encoding important data initially needed to load and run the file. For example, the import table. So for this example, we'll start encoding from the fourth instruction from our original entry point to the end of the text section. This isn't always enough for complete antivirus stealth, but it's a good start. So let's try to find these addresses in Ollie and note them down in our text file. I'll reload our file in Ollie, and let's start analyzing the address range we want to encode. We would like to encode from this point. Let's copy this address. Which is the immediate instruction after our hijack, and we would like to encode up to the end of this section. And that address seems to be here. So let's copy this address and make a note of it. Our code cave will contain an XOR routine stub, which will loop through our provided addresses and change the binary contents of the data between these two addresses. Once the XOR loop finishes encoding the data, we will save the file to disk. The binary contents will have changed from the original known malicious file. Once we execute our changed file, it will be loaded into memory, run the same XOR loop on the encoded data. Once decoded, we will jump to the original address of where we left off and continue normal operations of the malicious file. Since the unpacked version of the malware is in memory, the antivirus software is unable to scan or detect it. So let's take a look at this XOR stub. Don't be intimidated by the assembly code. It's easy to follow, even if you're not fluent in ASM.